What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Let's Talk About Your Podcast, where we discuss my best podcast launch tips. If you are wondering how to launch a podcast, how to launch your podcast, and you're totally confused and you've been podcrastinating, this is the place for the best podcast launch tips. And today we are going to dive in to one of my favorite topics. This is the one podcast launch strategy that absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, saved my first podcast. All right. Do I have your attention? So what we don't want to do is launch a show and do what's called pod fade. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I'm not podcasting anymore. I'm out. So we run into different barriers or different obstacles that hold us back from being consistent. Then all of a sudden, it's been 3 weeks. It's been a month. Oh, I haven't released an episode in a while. And then we feel guilty about that. We kind of have this shame situation happening. So this is really a killer tip that helped me get through that first year with my first show. All right. Now, I'm a big fan of Brendon Burchard. So when I started my brand in the health and fitness space, my online brand, online coaching, all that stuff, and started my first podcast, which was a health podcast called The Million Pound Mission. I took one of his courses. It was a smart idea. You know, I'm a smart guy sometimes. I took one of his, it's called Experts Academy at the time. I don't even know if he still sells it or not, but I took Experts Academy. There was a segment on content schedule. So this one tip that saved my podcast for sure was he challenged me to create a 52-week content schedule for my show. All right. So 1 year, and commit to 1 year. I will release something every week for 1 year. I will get to episode number 52 in that first 12 months, come hell or high water. So what I did, I just mapped out 52 things that I could talk about in the health space. I have lots of experience in the health space, so that wasn't that big of an issue. Now, the problem this solved for me as a podcaster is I was never scrambling for content. I was never that guy calling up my buddy on Wednesday night going, yo, can we do an interview real quick? Because I got to have something to release tomorrow to stay on schedule. I'm never that person. All right. I've got all of the things ready to go, ready to talk about. So my tip for you, and when I take somebody through my podcast launch blueprint program, this is one of the first things that we do. Now, the beautiful thing is, let's say you want to do some solo episodes and you want to do some interviews. All right, cool. We just made our job easier. Your list is 26 topics that you can talk about, 26 people that you'd like to talk to. So I know that initially people hear that 52 and they're like, oh my God, that's so many numbers, 52 things to talk about. It's not as hard as you think. All right. Like what we're doing here recently in the show, we've got these little quick bite episodes, and they can be little 5 to 7 minute episodes. These don't have to be 2 hour long conversations that you have to talk about 52 things for 2 hours. That could be intimidating. So maybe the 15 minutes, maybe it's 30 minutes. Once we get rolling as podcasters, let me just tell you, it's not that hard to just keep talking and make episodes as long as you need to make them. Side note. So the 52-week schedule, again, it could be, if you're doing like one episode a week, you're doing one interview, and then the next week it's a solo episode. That's how I started doing my health show. So I really just needed 26 people to talk to, 26 people that I'm interested in talking to, and 26 topics that I could do solo episodes on. I mapped that out, and that kept me consistent in my commitment to 1 year, no matter what. I'm like, this is something totally new. I've never done this before. I have to, I'm going to take a few wounds. I'm going to have some battle scars. There's going to be some scar tissue. I'm going to screw some stuff up. So I have to give myself a year to figure it out before I even think about quitting. So that was the commitment that I made. I'm going to map out a year of content and then commit to delivering that year of content no matter what, because otherwise I'm just quitting too early, because you never know like what lies beyond in year 2. And I wanted to quit so many damn times, Pod Pals. Like it was almost constant. I was very frustrated. My audio sucked. I didn't know any other podcasters. I had no one to really learn from other than like listening to like Tim Ferriss show and I Love Marketing. And they never really talked about podcasting. I just kind of tried to think about what they're doing and copy it. I really struggled, but I made that commitment. I was like, I just got to show up. It's just like working out. I got to put in reps. Every week I get a little bit stronger. I get a little bit better at communicating. I get a little bit better at interviewing. I get a little bit better about my processes and procedures. I can knock things out a little bit easier. My editing skills, my production skills, my sound gets a little bit better. Finding my voice, finding my message, understanding my audience. And again, I wanted to quit like every other week at least, but I didn't. And funny thing happened after a year of putting in those reps. I had this Rolodex of information. I was creating an online brand. I was starting to get clients. I was starting to monetize a little bit. I started networking with other podcasters. I started getting on other shows. And then by year 3, I'm like aiming towards being a full-time podcaster. By year 4, I was a full-time podcaster. So if I hadn't gotten through that first year, and I've done so many things wrong that first year, I will fully admit that, because I didn't have anybody to lean on. So obviously, like, that's why I'm so passionate about what I do now, because I want to be that person that gets a hold of somebody like you from the start and go, all right, here is the podcast launch blueprint. This is what I want you to do. This is what I know works. This is how we launch. This is how we grow. This is how we monetize. And more importantly, this is how we actually impact people that we're trying to impact. And we do it long-term, that long-term vision. And like I said, if you go through my course and go through my coaching program, each training session is something that I've screwed up and learned how to unscrew up. And that's what I'm teaching you, like things like this. So map out, that's my challenge to you. 1 year, 52 weeks of content. All right, map that out. And then we make that commitment. I will not give up on my podcasting dream, because I'm worth the effort. I'm worth the struggle. And more importantly, those people that I can touch, those people that I can impact, those people that I can serve are worth the effort. If you guys need some help launching your show, hit me up on the website, podcastingbusiness.school. Check out my podcast launch blueprint. It is time to get your message out there, pod pals. With that, I will leave you wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads.